My name is Christine Hurst. I'm the Deputy Head of the Democratization Department at ODIHR, and I have the pleasure today to introduce our speaker, Professor Nathan Elkin. Nathan is a visiting professor for international labor law at the Universidad Jaume I University in Castellón in Spain. Before joining the university, Dr. Elkin was chief of the unit at the International Labour Standards Department in Geneva, which focused on ILO instruments related to employment policies, tripartite consultation, and indigenous peoples. So I pass the floor to Dr. Elkin.
Thank you very much. Dear Excellencies, dear delegations, dear participants from the civil society, dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Director and the Secretariat of the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights for giving me the honor to contribute to this working session of the 2016 Human Dimension Implementation Meeting. Having spent 30 years in the Department for International Labour Standards at the International Labour Office, I am aware of the challenges that we need to overcome to achieve the realization of economic, social, and cultural rights as established in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. So, coming from an organization with tripartite stakeholders, seeing such a wide variety of civil society organizations in this room is a great example of the common commitment that it is necessary to overcome present and future challenges. Today, the security dimension of the economic, social, and cultural commitments is even more important by defining peace in wider terms than the mere absence of war. Consequently, giving individuals the possibility to participate meaningfully in society through work that is freely chosen, productive, and decently paid, and forms the basis for building a life, constitute one factor to prevent the radicalization of some segments of society. The tools for such are enshrined in the different international human rights treaties and relevant international labor standards. My intervention intends to open the debate by recalling some instruments that have been elaborated by the international community with the very active participation of representatives of the organizations of employers and workers from OSCE participating states, reflecting a broad consensus of civil society within the region. In this respect, let's recall that universal and lasting peace can be established only if it is based upon social justice, the first statement and guiding principle in the preamble of the Constitution of the International Labour Organization. This founding statement was completed by the Declaration of Philadelphia from 1944 with the fundamental principle that labor is not a commodity. And you all remember that higher standards of living, full employment, and conditions of economic and social progress and development are among the founding principles of the United Nations. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights has therefore developed the right to work, to freely chosen employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and to be protected against unemployment. The realization of the right to work is also at the heart of the mandate of the ILO. The ILO Employment Policy Convention number 122, adopted in 1964, reaffirms the right to work, as established in the Universal Declaration, thereby reinforcing each other and strengthening the promotion of the right to work. In the same vein, in 1966, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights recognized the right to work, which includes the right of everyone to the opportunity to gain his living by work which he freely chooses or accepts, and that state parties would take appropriate steps to safeguard this right. In the 1975 Final Act of Helsinki, the OSCE participating states obliged themselves to promote and encourage the effective exercise of economic, social, cultural, and other rights and freedoms, all of which derive from the inherent dignity of the human person and are essential for his free and full development, echoing the commitments established in the UN Twin Covenants. In addition, in the concluding document of the 1989 Vienna meeting, the participating states stressed the need to continue their efforts with a view to achieving progressively the full realization of economic, social, and cultural rights by all appropriate means, including in particular by the adoption of legislative measures. While the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights has underlined that the right to work should not be understood as an absolute and unconditional right to obtain employment, it has nonetheless stated that the right to work includes the right of every human being to decide freely to accept or choose work, including not being forced in any way to exercise or engage in employment, and the right of access to a system of protection guaranteeing each worker access to employment. The most recent international labor recommendation, particularly relevant to the realization of the right to work, was adopted by the International Labour Conference in June 2015. Titled "The Transition from the Informal to the Formal Economy," paragraph 14 of recommendation number 204 states that in pursuing the objective of quality job creation in the formal economy, members should formulate and implement a national employment policy in line with Convention number 122 and make full, decent, productive, and freely chosen employment a central goal in their national development and growth strategy or plan. Indeed, Convention number 122 enjoins member states to realize the right to work by focusing on the effective implementation of employment policies together with employers and unions to maximize full employment. Convention number 122 provides that the national employment policy should be aimed at ensuring that there is freedom of choice of employment and the fullest possible opportunity for each worker to qualify for and to use his skills and endowments in a job for which he is well suited, irrespective of race, color, sex, religion, political opinion, national extraction, or social origin. This requirement of the Convention comprises two elements. First, the absence of compulsion to undertake work that has not been freely chosen or accepted. And secondly, the opportunity to acquire qualifications and to use one's skills and endowments free from any discrimination. The first of these aspects, that is the abolition of compulsory work, which is an obvious prerequisite for the freedom of choice of employment, is dealt with in depth in two ILO fundamental conventions. The Fourth Labor Convention, number 29, adopted in 1930, and the abolition of Fourth Labor Convention, number 105, adopted in 1957. The intention to remove such discrimination is at the root of most measures designed to implement employment policies. The Discrimination, Employment and Occupation Convention, 1958, number 111, and the Equal Remuneration Convention, 1951, number 100, laying the basis for enabling decent living conditions, are two of the most widely ratified ILO conventions. It is clear that the drafters of Convention number 122 were mindful of its human rights dimension. This is recalled in its preamble, which refers to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In addition, the Employment Policy Supplementary Provisions Recommendations, number 169, adopted in 1984, further introduced human rights dimensions to the implementation of Convention number 122 by stipulating that the promotion of full, productive, and freely chosen employment provided for in the Convention should be regarded as a means of achieving in practice the realization of the right to work. In the current context of adjustment policies, many businesses are taking measures that might affect the employment security of workers. The Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights has indicated that the right to work under the Covenant affirms the obligations of state parties to assure individuals the right to freely chosen or accepted work, including the right not to be deprived of work unfairly. In the ILO, it has been recognized that the employer's right to dismiss a worker for a valid reason aims to ensure the worker's right not to be deprived of work unfairly. The purpose, therefore, of the ILO instruments on termination of employment, Convention number 158 and Recommendation number 166, is to provide a balance between the interests of the employer and those of the worker, and to promote the use of social dialogue as a means of achieving that balance. In paragraph 8 of its 2016 March resolution on the right to work, the Human Rights Council emphasized that the right to work entails the right not to be deprived of work arbitrarily and unfairly, and that states, in accordance with the relevant obligations in relation to the right to work, are required to put in place measures ensuring the protections of workers against unlawful dismissal. Young people have been one of the categories of workers most affected by the crisis in OSCE participating states. In this respect, in its resolution and conclusion on the youth employment crisis, a call for action, adopted in June 2012, the ILO underlined that international labor standards play an important role in protecting the rights of young workers and underscored the importance of implementing policies that promote full, productive, and freely chosen employment informed by Convention number 122. The Right to Work resolution adopted by the Human Rights Council also expressed deep concern that in 2015, approximately 71.3 million young people were unemployed, and that the global youth unemployment rate is around 13.1%, while the global employment rate for young women is 15 percentage points lower than that for young men. The Human Rights Council decided to pay particular attention to the realization of the right to work for young people, bearing in mind the fundamental importance of equal opportunities, education and vocational training in the context of realizing that right, and emphasized that full and productive employment for young people played an important role in their empowerment and can contribute to the prevention of extremism, terrorism, and social, economic, and political instability. The adoption of Convention number 88 regarding public employment services in July 1948 contributed to the realization of the right to work, as set out in Article 23, paragraph 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, also adopted in December 1948. With explicit reference to Convention number 88, the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights has re-emphasized the obligation to take appropriate measures for the establishment of employment services, public or private, and the national and local levels. In 1997, the Private Employment Agencies Convention number 181 was adopted in order to regulate private employment agencies, which in many countries play an important role in providing employment to job seekers. Convention number 88 and Convention number 181 complement one another. Public employment services and private agencies both contribute to the functioning of the labor market and to the realization of the right to work. Reference was made in the preamble of Convention number 181 to the Fourth Labor Convention, Convention number 29, to reinforce the role played by public authorities and private employment agencies in eradicating forced labor. Forced labor is often linked to human trafficking in which abusive intermediaries might engage. In paragraph 4 of the Fourth Labor Supplementary Measures Recommendation number 203, recently adopted in June 2014, it is indicated that efforts between relevant government agencies should be promoted to facilitate regular and safe migration and to prevent trafficking in persons, including coordinated efforts to regulate and monitor labor recruiters and employment agencies and eliminate the charging of recruitment fees to workers to prevent debt, bondage, and other forms of economic coercion. Fighting against human trafficking also provides a common platform of work for participating states and the ILO. The following are my concluding remarks that you might wish to use them as ideas for further discussion during the coming debate. The realization of the right to work as a basic human right can be attained through the promotion of full, productive, and freely chosen employment as the cornerstone of economic and social policies. The ILO instruments related to employment provide a framework to realize the human right to work and to education for all, to confront and mitigate the effects of the economic crisis, and to ensure continuing and genuine dialogue with the civil society, in particular representative of the employers and trade unions. Taking together the ILO instruments and human rights obligations as established in the Twin Covenants for the realization of the right to work, the OSCE commitments also contribute to articulate the matters to be addressed by governments in consultations with the representatives of the civil society for implementing an employment policy as part of the human dimension of a sustainable peace. In the 1990 Charter of Paris for a New Europe, the OSCE participating states indicated that social justice, as well as economic liberty and environmental responsibility, were indispensable for prosperity. In the OSCE strategy to address threats to security and stability in the 21st century, adopted by the Ministerial Council in Maastricht, 2003, it was emphasized that widespread poverty and high unemployment were among economic factors that threatened stability and security. Having in mind these pure OSCE commitments, and in order to deliver as one, further coordination and concerted action should be undertaken between the UN treaty bodies, the ILO and the OSCE for the effective realization of economic, social and cultural rights. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that this will contribute to your debate.
Thank you very much, Professor Alken.